It was there, on the sandy track where the wind carried the scent of morning, that I felt alive for the first time in years. Who would have thought that a horse could teach me more about freedom than any human being I have ever had in my life? My name is Evelyn. I am 35 years old, and until recently, like most people, I lived on autopilot. I would wake up, do my chores, make love at the right pace, or so I thought, and go to bed with the feeling that something was missing, but I didn't have the courage to admit it, even to myself. Life seemed like a series of rehearsed routines, and I played my part perfectly, not daring to deviate from the script. I was always the kind of woman everyone expected me to be: strong, practical, loyal. But you know how it is when life calls you somewhere else, and that's exactly what it did. I just didn't know it would be somewhere else with hooves, a mane, and a rhythmic gait that seemed to beat in unison with my heart. It all began casually when a friend invited me to the stables. I thought it would be an ordinary morning, but as soon as I saw the open field where the horses galloped as if they were the masters of the world, something inside me woke up. Their every step seemed to echo in my soul, shattering the grey routine I called my life. The air was crisp that day, carrying with it a sense of freedom I had long forgotten. The sunlight danced on the horses' coats, turning them into golden figures against the lush green field. For a moment I froze, mesmerized. At first I doubted that I would be too clumsy to ride one of these animals. I thought I couldn't do it. But as I took my first step on the morning dew-covered grass, I felt I was exactly where I was meant to be. Amidst the shy smiles and confident hand of instructor Liam helping me secure my saddle, I realized how underestimated I was. They seemed to see my indecision, and a hidden desire became my extension. With each step, I felt myself growing further away from the Evelyn I used to be, the Evelyn I no longer recognized in myself. Little did I know that this first step was just the beginning of something that would change not only my life, but also the relationship I thought was unshakable. It's funny how we get used to silence. Not the cozy silence that surrounds us, but the heavy silence that hangs between two people who no longer know how to talk. Adam and I had been together for more than 10 years. From the outside, everything seemed perfect. We had a nice house, weekend dinners, and the stability you'd expect. But the truth is, stability can be treacherous. It doesn't warn you when it becomes routine, when kisses become mechanical and conversations become banal. It was like playing in an empty theatre, no audience, no passion. I accepted it and decided that this is what aging love must be like. We often accept the early signs of estrangement as normal, ignoring the cracks until they become insurmountable. And then I met Nathan. He had an energy that was breathtaking, like he had the whole world in his eyes, and he still found room to really look at me. It was different with him, you know? There wasn't this weight of years of resentment and unspoken expectations. He was light-hearted and profound at the same time. When he spoke, it was as if there was a piece of his soul in every word. And I wondered when Adam and I had stopped seeing each other, when our hands once so close became strangers. When did we stop being each other's refuge and become passing characters in the same story? At first, I tried to push the feeling away. I blamed myself for the work routine. But every time Nathan looked at me, I felt something I had not felt for a long time, a desire for admiration, a desire to live. It wasn't just because of him. It was that he reminded me of myself, Evelyn, who loved to laugh heartily, who dreamed without fear, who believed in love, who made my heart beat faster. Deep down, I knew it wasn't just about Adam. It was about who we had become together, the version of us that settled for less than we deserved. There are places that aren't on any map, but they can lead us to a piece of heaven. That's how I felt in Nathan's world, like he'd given me the keys to a safe haven I didn't even know I had. Nathan showed me a world that was much more than horses running through green fields. It was about being at one with nature, with animals, with parts of myself I did not even know existed. He spoke with such passion, explaining every aspect of horse care in detail, as if they were more than just majestic creatures. And to be honest, they were. They were living, breathing mirrors, reflecting a purity and resilience I had never known. I watched as Nathan gently stroked the mane of one of them, explaining that each horse had its own personality, its own secrets. Gradually, I began to realize that this attention and care was what I had been missing in my life, that I needed someone to look at me with the same devotion. I remember the first time I felt like I was getting on a horse under his guidance. It wasn't just the adrenaline rush of riding such a powerful animal. It was the realization that I was exactly where I was meant to be. It was as if he was my dream trainer. Every ride felt like a step towards reclaiming a version of myself that had been buried under years of complacency. Nathan and this world symbolized the promise of a life full of bright colors, less stifling than the one I had known before. But it was the simple moments that touched me the most. Conversations in the shade of the trees, the clatter of hooves in the quiet of the afternoon, his look when he thought I hadn't noticed. It was a pulsating life, full of color and possibility, different from the grey palette I was used to. Every day here was like opening a window to something more. Without realizing it, I began to dream about that window more often. I wanted to walk through it and dive into the colorful world it opened. I had always thought there was only room in my heart for one love, but now I found myself in a silent struggle between what I felt and what I thought was right. Spending time with Nathan was like rediscovering a version of myself I had long given up on. I laughed more, dreamed with my eyes open, felt the flutter in my stomach that had seemed lost over the years. But when I came home and saw Adam, reality hit me like an icy wave. How could I have felt so alive with Nathan? It wasn't just about Nathan or Adam, it was about me, about what I was willing to do to find out what my heart really wanted. There were nights when I would wake up and stare at the ceiling, trying to find answers that never came. I remembered so many conversations that Adam and I didn't have, so many times when we chose to stay silent rather than talk about what was really bothering us. It was like standing 2 feet from a cliff and pretending it didn't exist. And yet the thought of hurting him was unbearable to me. Adam was part of my story, my memories. How could I ignore that? But at the same time, how could I deny what was growing inside me? It was a conflict from which there seemed to be no way out. I felt like a rope being pulled in different directions by duty and desire. Some might say that the choice was simple, but when the heart is involved, nothing is simple. And of all the feelings, the question that plagued me the most was I being selfish in wanting more, or brave in admitting that what I had wasn't enough? There are places that heal, but sometimes it's not the place itself. It's the company, the shared silence, the fact that time seems to stand still when you're exactly where you're supposed to be. There was one particular evening that has always stayed with me. Nathan took me to a secluded field where the sun seemed to turn everything golden. He said he wanted to show me his favorite place, and when we arrived, I understood why. The scenery was breathtaking. The horizon merged with the sky, horses grazed peacefully, and there was a harmony in the air that seemed to come from within. We sat side by side without speaking, and in that silence I felt a connection deeper than words. He seemed to understand everything I was thinking without explanation. As we watched the sunset, Nathan began to talk about the dreams he had left behind, about how the stable was not just a job for him, but a legacy he wanted to leave behind. There was a vulnerability in his words that touched my heart. I realized that he wasn't just a man full of energy who had opened up a new world for me. He too carried his scars, his fears, and somehow that brought us even closer together. Our souls seemed to recognize each other through the cracks we tried to hide. Something changed in me that night. I knew I was on a dangerous path, but I also realized that such moments were rare. It wasn't just about Nathan or what he had awakened in me. It was about what he symbolized. about being able to live more authentically, in tune with who I am. When he looked at me, at the moment when the sun had almost disappeared over the horizon, I felt as if time had stopped. And at the same time, I felt I was being pushed to the point of no return. Sometimes life leads us down unexpected paths, full of difficult choices and conflicting emotions. Evelyn's story shows how finding ourselves can take us to places we never imagined. Have you ever had to choose between what your heart wants and what your mind thinks is right? Share your thoughts in the comments section. Let's discuss it together. And don't forget, stories like this are happening right now. Click on the videos that pop up on your screen to dive into new and exciting stories. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next chapters of this journey.